Was Kane and Lynch Dead Men really that bad? This is a good question that I seek to answer in my review today. I'm going to start my video on a positive note and say that I really liked the story, especially in the beginning, and I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed it, being about a man named Kane who's trying to protect his wife and daughter from a crime group called the Seven, who he was in trouble with. But after they kill his wife, the story turns into a quest to take down the Seven and to protect his daughter from them. And apparently this title has multiple endings, but I never finished the game due to a game-breaking glitch, which I'll get into soon. Also, the voice actors were pretty good in my opinion. And those are my two biggest positives with Kane and Lynch. Shifting gears to talk about the flip side of the coin, we have negatives, and we're going to start by talking about performance. It wasn't uncommon for Dead Men to have frame rate drops when a lot was happening at once, so that's a minor L. But for the game-breaking glitch I mentioned earlier, it was on Chapter 14. So, in this part of the game, you're a stealth sniper and you have to shoot some guards so that the character Carlos can plant an explosive on a gate. Okay, nothing too hard on paper, but I didn't always do the best job of protecting him and he'd get shot and die. That was my fault when this occurred. But, on multiple occasions, I managed to quietly take out all of the guards without raising the alarm, and then Carlos would just die every time. Confused and a little frustrated after this happened several times, I looked up a tutorial online. Sure enough, I was taking out all of the present guards quietly, so there was no one left to hurt Carlos. He'd just die even if I did what I was supposed to, or he'd glitch in place and just not move. So Kane and Lynch does not get good marks from me in the performance department. Graphically, for a game of its time, it does not look good. This title released in 2007, the year of Modern Warfare and Medal of Honor Airborne. Video games that look way better than this one does. But as far as gameplay goes, meh, it's not anything to get excited for. A third-person cover shooter that felt rather stiff and clunky, and it was really hard at times, in part due to the jankiness of this game, in part due to poor level design, and the fact that you have very little health. Kane and Lynch has 3 difficulties. Aspirin, the easiest, Codeine, I hope I said that right, the medium difficulty, and Morphine, the hardest. I initially attempted this game on the medium difficulty, but I kept dying over and over and over again, because you have next to no HP, and after a couple levels, I turned it down to aspirin. Even then, you still don't have a large health bar. Anyways, one of the things I really disliked about the cover mechanics was that it didn't work that well, having an auto snap to cover system which only seemed to work when it wanted to. But whenever it did work, I would occasionally get shot through whatever I was hiding behind. I specifically recall at one point being behind a shed of some sort with no part of my character exposed, and I was simply shot and down through the shed. Yippee. Now I do have one positive for the cover mechanic, being that you can blind fire from cover, in which Kane shoots in a general area while staying protected, and while it wasn't near as accurate as aiming and shooting, it was still helpful in a tight spot. But about poor level design, I've established that this is a cover shooter, and there were some areas with not great cover options, or one section where you're on a roof trying to shoot down a helicopter and you were totally exposed. But in a nutshell, I wasn't a huge fan of some level designs and the cover mechanics. I also wasn't a huge fan of some of the levels in general. The early parts of the game are mainly just Kane and Lynch doing their thing in smaller skirmish situations, if you will. But later in the game, there are open war levels, stealth areas that I mentioned earlier. It just felt all over the place, and the stealth especially did not fit this game in my opinion. And I'm not really sure if this is a beef with the level design itself, but you can't stop mid-level and pick back up later. Even though this game has checkpoints, you have to play an entire level start to finish in one sitting. So if you get halfway into the level and you want to go play something else and finish that level later, Tough stuff, you're gonna have to restart from the beginning, so rip. But getting back to combat, Kane and Lynch has a cool feature in that you can kind of command any allies you have with you, like telling them to follow you, defend a place, or attack an area, so that was neat. They can also give you ammo if you're running low, and you can give them any weapon you want in exchange for theirs. Plus, they'll generally try to revive you if you down, but you're also expected to pick them up when they need aid. Now about reviving. If you get downed, you'll lay on the ground for a few seconds, and a companion can give you a shot of adrenaline to pick you up. But if they revive you too often in a short period of time, you die from an OD. I do see what the devs were going for here, but imagine if I don't know, in COD Zombies, you were playing with a bad teammate and you kept having to revive them. But if you revive them too many times, they'd die from too many revives. An interesting concept, but I wasn't a huge fan of it. Shifting gears to talk about a different part of battle, I want to get into weaponry. You can hold two weapons at once, a primary and a sidearm, with all weapons being pretty basic stuff. An M16, a pump-action shotgun, stuff like that. And my favorite weapon was probably the light machine gun. You can also hold two grenade types, like smoke and frag nades, although I found nades to be a little tricky to accurately throw. And finally, you can melee. Meleeing in this game was kind of interesting, in that Kane wears a tiny knife blade on a ring, which he uses to stab people. But getting up close and personal was kind of risky, as Kane doesn't simply stab someone and move on. Oh no, he does this whole takedown animation that eats up a couple seconds, and he is totally vulnerable during the process. And while I thought the takedowns were cool, it was just so risky it often wasn't worth it. And to complicate hand-to-hand fighting, you use the A button to melee, the same button to reload, and to pick up new guns. One button for three purposes. What could possibly go wrong? Maybe accidentally doing a takedown when you meant to reload, or accidentally picking up a fresh gun while trying to reload. This happened to me a couple times, and it was a tad bit annoying. What was also annoying was the waypoint system. You have to press and hold the left joystick to get an objective marker for a couple of seconds, so you basically had to stop completely if you needed directions. I guess it's better than no directions, but I still wasn't a huge fan of this. Wrapping up my review, the soundtrack was decent, and this title does offer local co-op, but I didn't have another person to try it with, so no comment. In conclusion, was Kane and Lynch Dead Men really that bad? My answer, yep. Meg gameplay mixed with game-breaking performance issues causes this title to earn a 5.9 out of 10 by my grade scale. Now, it is on the higher end of being a bad game according to my books, but it's a bad game nonetheless. And the infamous paid reviews don't do this game any favors. For those who don't know, GameSpot gave the game a 6 out of 10 and the reviewer was fired, because the company was paid to give this game a good review. And after the dude's NDA expired, he later revealed what happened, which was later reinforced by Giant Bomb after they bought GameSpot. Wikipedia is the source for my info here, but I seem to recall reading this somewhere else also. Anyways, as far as similar games I could recommend, maybe Rogue Trooper Redux, you might like that one, and I reckon that wraps up my review itself for today. Thankfully, I only paid about $5 for a used copy of this game, so not a big loss. For anyone new here, I mostly review and discuss Xbox 360 games, so feel free to check out some of my other vids if that sounds interesting, and follow me on GameRam for hints at upcoming vids and behind the scenes action. As for our Bible verse of the day, I read Matthew 6:34 NIV. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Alrighty, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate it. Like always, none of my content is ever made by AI. Keep YouTube human. And I never consent to my voice and likeness being modified, copied, and altered by AI in any way. Jesus is king, and he loves you all. Thanks again for watching and for tolerating my horrible narrations. Have a good one. Peace. or he just glitch in place and not move. So Kane and Lynch does not get good marks from me, and I specifically recall at one point being behind a